G'day, I'm Sam and this is the Kawasaki Z900. Now this bike has undergone some pretty big revisions for 2025. We're going to go through them. We're going to go for a nice little spin today in Western Sydney to see what this bike is all about. I've got a little bit of personal history with the Z series as well, so really keen to jump on this thing and see what it's about. 900 Kawasaki's just seem to fit right. If you go way back when, there's bikes like the GP Z900, obviously the ZX-9 of the 90s and noughties. It just seems to be the right middle ground capacity for Kawasaki. So question is, can this new Z900 take it forward with the changes for 2025? Let's hit the road and find out. Okay, so some massive changes for 2025, but I think really importantly, Kawasaki have managed to keep this bike very budget conscious. So $14,299 plus on-road costs is the official price, about $16,500 right away. In today's new bike market, I reckon that's an extraordinary price. It really does represent strong value for money, especially with a lot of the equipment on this machine for 2025. I guess in terms of obvious rivals, Yamaha MT-09 is probably the most logical one. It's around similar money. This probably undercuts it by just a little bit here in Australia. Of course, check your pricing nationally in whichever country you're in, because the prices here can differ quite a lot from other markets around the world. I guess key to this bike for 2025 is the engine, 900cc inline 4-cylinder. It has been that way since about 2017 when Kawasaki moved to the larger 900cc capacity. It was an 800 before that, and even before that it was a 750, which was the bike that I owned quite a few years ago now, and one that I love. So that's why I've been really keen to check this one out. A lot of changes for 2025 in terms of the engine internals. So all told, you're getting 92 kilowatts of power, 98 Newton meters of torque, a little bump in terms of both counts. But some big revisions in terms of the way that power is delivered. And as we'll see, there's a really nice spread of power and torque across the rev range. Big changes to the gearbox as well. So different gearing across the 6 different ratios for 2025. We've got a quick shifter up and down. We've also got a slipper clutch as standard. Elsewhere, taking a look around, the steel trellis frame, it's had a very small revisions throughout. And also big revisions in terms of ergonomics. Kawasaki says that this bike is a little bit changed in terms of its geometry, so you're leaning a little bit more forward. The bars are said to be wider, but importantly still feels like a really nimble bike out in the traffic. So 213 kilograms thereabouts is the claim wet weight for 2025. I think one of the real keys to the Z series for so long has been its lightness and its nimbleness, from the 750 right up through to something like the Z1000. So we still get that bike here in Australia. A lot of markets overseas don't anymore because of emissions. I think we're going to see a change to it in the coming year or two as well. Just like the Ninja 1100, it'll probably move up capacity to a Z1100 to be able to skirt around the latest emissions standards. So we've got a few other changes here that make this bike Euro compliant. So new exhaust system, new pollution systems on it as well. Of course, lots of styling changes, as is normal with a lot of these bikes. LED headlights, LED tail lights, some new colours for 2025. Redesigned seat, which is a little bit higher on account of its new foam. So I think it goes from 820 to 830 millimeters. Dunlop Sport Max tyres on this bike, and a whole host of new electronics for 2025 as well. So the 6-axis traction control suite, you've got electronic cruise control, you've got ABS front and rear, and you've got a host of different riding modes. So 3 modes to choose from. We're going to spend a bit of time in all 3 today to see how they differ. But enough of me chatting, let's go and hit the road. Okay, so getting to grips with the Kawasaki Z900. I have to say it has been an absolute cinch to get my head around this bike. From the moment I kind of rolled out of Kawasaki's headquarters, we're kind of heading a little bit west today, quick ride through the mountains and then back. So we're taking on a bit of everything, kind of representative of what a weekly commute on a bike like this might look like. And yeah, I just found very easily that I just was able to get my head around this bike, what it does, what it doesn't do. I think that says a lot about the bike. But it also speaks to the fact that I owned a bike very similar to this, very early incarnation of it, a 2008 Z750. So same recipe, inline 4, naked. I absolutely love that bike. In fact, it's probably the bike I wish I hadn't sold, because it was always seemed to have the right amount of power and spice, but in a very user-friendly package that never seemed to get you into too much trouble. So obviously we've gone up a bit in capacity to 900. We've now got 92 kilowatts of power, 98 newton meters of torque. We've got all those changes that we talked about for 2025, but some really good components all round as well. So 41 millimeter front forks with preload and rebound adjustment. Same level of adjustment on the shock as well. 140 millimeters worth of travel front and rear. Stopping power is courtesy of Nissan brakes up front, so 300 millimeter discs with 4-piston calipers, and we've got quite a sizable 250 millimeter disc on the rear with a single floating caliper. All of that in a bike that weighs about 213 kilograms. It's very user friendly, more than enough power and torque for most situations, and all wrapped in a very sort of shiny veneer for 2025. So you've got this new 5-inch TFT display, very easy to navigate, very legible. You know, just with the positioning of this bike, you're kind of set quite forward for 2025, so it does require a deliberate glance down to check your speed, but the good news is everything there is very legible and concise, so you're not taking your eyes off the road for too long. This is a good demonstration of just how user-friendly this bike is. 6 gear, 80 kilometers an hour, just shy of 4,000 RPM. If I want to call on a little bit more power, it comes on really nicely. I think the engine kind of naturally hits its straps between sort of 7,000-8,000 RPM. Pulls all the way through to that red line that you see there, just shy of 11. It really is everything that's great about the traditional inline 4-cylinder engine. Works really well, really user friendly. This has a nice bandwidth of torque down low, beautiful middling revs, and then when you need it, peaky sort of power delivery as well, up in the upper echelons. I'm a really big fan of the gearbox changes for 2025, so we've got new ratios. The box itself feels so well oiled and lubricated, it's just really easy to use. You've got a quick shifter function up and down. Now in commuting terms, that means you're just streamlining the riding experience. Nice light clutch take up, very easy, very predictable. So yeah, you can pick up speed really quickly if you need to, and it never feels like a chore on this bike. Floating along now, kind of in and out of 60-80 kilometer an hour zones. Wind protection isn't too bad. I'm getting a little bit of buffeting as I approach that 80k an hour mark, a lot more on the highway, which is, you know, to be expected for a naked bike. But the bike itself, very user friendly, very easy to gauge, to come to grips with, and even bump compliant. So it's sort of telegraphing everything that's underneath me without unnecessary vibration or feedback. So yeah, I think it really does cement itself as a consummate commuter, because it's just so easy to nip in and out of traffic. The bars, even though they say they're wider for 2025, still quite narrow in the hands. The bike feels short wheelbase, very approachable, very easy to flick around, and easy to get your balance on too. Just approaching red lights like we're about to now, you have full confidence. Lane filtering, keeping your balance at low speeds. Yeah, it works really well. But there is another side to the Z900 with, you know, decent amount of power and torque available. I think we're going to hit the twisties to see what it's really capable of, and whether it does stop, turn and go as well as the commuting in the city suggests. So we might take a left up here, and go find some twisting roads. Alright, so hitting the road on some fun little twisties here in the Blue Mountains of Western Sydney. Really easy to come to grips with. I think, you know, for all this talk about it being a more forward riding position and wider bars, it still feels like a very narrow, very nimble bike. Perfect for my frame, 5'9". You kind of wonder how a 6'3", 4, 5 person might feel on this bike. I feel like they're going to feel very, very big on it. To me, it feels like the perfect size. Seat height, the distance from foot pegs to handlebars, it is all very, very easy to gel with for someone of my size and weight, just under 80 kilograms. But yeah, the key to this bike and its charm is the engine. Inline 4-cylinder, classic Japanese naked bike or sports bike, and it delivers with so much punchiness throughout the dial. It has really good gearing. I think the 6-speed transmission does a really good job offering a nice spread of ratios, and that mid-range is just beautiful. As we said, enough power to sort of pull away cleanly, but nothing to really get you into trouble. And I guess that quick shifter as well, just really, really nice in streamlining the riding experience. My Z750 certainly didn't have that. It just feels so much better for it. But yeah, the way that the bike turns in so confidently, the nimbleness of it doesn't feel like a bike you've got to stay on top of. It's just a bike that inspires confidence. Snappy brakes, really easy to navigate through turns, through changes in direction. Look at that, just so easy. I've been on this bike for all of half an hour and could very comfortably put a knee down if you wanted to. Just the way that it turns in and everything else is fantastic. Yeah, especially for this, you know, little adventurous squirts here and there, like an hour-long ride on the weekend, or a couple of hours in the saddle on the weekend. This really fits the bill. It's just so easy to navigate, so streamlined. And yeah, I think there is so much to be said for a bike that offers enough punch but not too much, and I think the Z900 is that. No complaints at all from a commuter point of view. I think if anything, the gearing at highway speeds is a little bit short. At 110 k's an hour, say, you're going to be sitting just under 5,000 RPM, which, yeah, it's revving. And also the screen, limited wind protection from this screen, which is no great surprise. That is, I guess, the thing about it being a naked. You're going to have to make do with that a little bit. Yeah, but I just love how just manageable this bike is. You don't feel like you're having to clamber on top of the thing to stop at wheel standing. It just feels really comfortable riding a brisk pace without wanting to flick you off it. Super easy to turn in, nice and predictable all the way through the corner. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I guess the other talking point with this engine, like, yes, we've said great breadth of power, great breadth of torque, but it's just really smooth as well. Charming, it's not full of vibration, it offers enough character, and you can imagine with a pipe on board, it would only augment all of that. I think, you know, inline 4-cylinders aren't anything new, but with all the latest fueling technology, the electronics on them, they're still really fun, really relevant. And they make a lot of sense in a bike like the Z900. Okay, so the 2025 Z900, as you can probably tell in my voice, both here and out on the ride, this is a bike that I really enjoy. It's one that is so easy to get to grips with. Obviously, when you jump on a new bike for the first time, there can be a little bit of acclimatization. It might take you 15-20 minutes to come to grips with it. Honestly, I hadn't even got out of the car park of the Kawasaki warehouse in Western Sydney, and I was already really across this bike. Maybe that's because I've owned some in the past. Maybe it's just because it just feels so user-friendly and easy to come to grips with. To me, I think it is a consummate all-rounder. It's not particularly great on the open road because of that lack of screen and also the short gearing at highway speeds, but it does everything really well. It's nippy, and most importantly, it's fun and it's frugal as well. I think the fact that you can get onto a bike for this sort of money, get that sort of power, get that sort of safety features, it really ticks every box, and it's a bike I think a lot of people will be really happy with.